He was the king of pop, loved by millions, but behind the lights and fame, Michael Jackson carried a heavy heart. His smile was magical, yet it hid years of pain, betrayal, and silent rage. While the world danced to his songs, few knew the truth. Michael had enemies in the music industry. Some mocked him, some betrayed his trust, and others tried to steal his crown. He did not just dislike them, he hated them with a deep fire. This is not just a list, it is a look into the soul of a man who could not forget or forgive. Before we dive into video, please subscribe our channel. Michael Jackson's life was a mix of glitter and pain. On stage, he looked like the most confident man alive, but behind closed doors, he was fighting battles no one could see. His journey started at a very young age. Michael was just a little boy when he became the lead singer of the Jackson 5. From that moment on, his childhood disappeared. While other kids played outside, Michael was rehearsing, performing, and living under strict rules. His father, Joseph Jackson, pushed him hard, sometimes with love, sometimes with fear. Michael later admitted that his father's punishments were often cruel and terrifying. As he grew older, the pressure only increased. Fame became a prison. Every move he made was watched by millions. He could not walk in public without being chased. He could not trust people easily because many wanted something from him: his fame, his money, or his secrets. Even some of the people closest to him turned against him. That kind of loneliness is hard to describe. Then came the rumors, the lies, the painful court cases. Michael was accused of things that broke his spirit. Even when he was found not guilty, the damage was done. The media treated him like a joke, calling him names and mocking his appearance. But behind every surgery and change in his look was a man who felt trapped inside. His own skin, a man who never learned to love himself because the world never accepted him as he was. Music was his only safe space. It was the one place where he could express his true feelings: love, sadness, fear, anger, and hope. But even there, he faced betrayal. Record labels tried to control him. Fellow artists challenged his throne. Some even mocked his pain for entertainment. All of this left deep emotional scars. Over time, Michael became guarded. He started holding grudges. He could forgive many things, but not betrayal, not mockery, and not those who tried to ruin what he had built with his blood, sweat, and soul. To understand why he hated certain people in the music industry, you must first understand this. Michael Jackson was not just a superstar. He was a wounded man, trying to protect what little peace he had left in a world that never gave him rest. Now we talk about 7 singers Michael disliked the most. Number 1. Prince. Prince was not just a rival. He was the rival. When people talked about the king of pop, they always brought up the Prince of Funk. Both were incredibly talented, wildly creative, and had millions of fans. But their similarities did not make them friends, they made them enemies. Michael Jackson saw Prince as someone who tried too hard to compete. The tension between them was quiet but powerful. They were supposed to collaborate on the song Bad. Michael had imagined the 2 biggest stars in the world sharing the stage, but Prince said no. He refused to be part of the video. Why? Because he did not want to play second to anyone, especially not Michael. That rejection cut deep. Michael saw it as a sign of disrespect. He felt Prince was letting his ego get in the way of something great. From that moment on, their relationship changed. They never publicly fought, but behind the scenes, the competition was fierce. They would avoid each other at events. They would try to outdo one another in music, style, and even album sales. Michael once joked about Prince's behavior during a private interview, calling him a mean person and saying he always felt uncomfortable around him. Prince, on the other hand, would often make small jabs in public, including mocking Michael's dancing and fame. Both men stood at the top of the music world, but there was only room for one crown. Michael hated the games Prince played. He hated the silent arrogance. And most of all, he hated that the world kept comparing them as if his greatness needed to be measured against anyone. For Michael, Prince was not just a fellow artist. He was a challenge he never wanted, but never forgot. Number 2. Madonna. Michael Jackson and Madonna were 2 of the most powerful names in music. When they appeared together, the world held its breath. People imagined a magical friendship, maybe even a romance. But what really happened behind the scenes was very different and far from magical. In the early 1990s, Madonna and Michael went on a highly publicized date to the Academy Awards. The world was excited, but Michael was not. He later told friends that she was rude, bossy, and completely full of herself. She told him how to dress, what to say, and even what kind of jokes to make during interviews. Michael hated that. He valued kindness and respect. What he got from Madonna was arrogance and control. Things got worse when Madonna made public comments about Michael's personal life. She joked about his appearance and said things that made him feel mocked. For someone as private and sensitive as Michael, this was more than just hurtful, it was a betrayal. He felt she used him for publicity and then threw him under the bus. Michael once told a close friend that Madonna was not a nice person and that he regretted ever trusting her. He believed she cared more about fame than people. Her bold attitude, her crude humor, and her willingness to hurt others for attention. These were things Michael could never respect. He came from a world where emotions mattered. Madonna, in his eyes, played with emotions like they were tools. That difference created a deep divide between them. Michael did not just dislike Madonna. He hated how she made him feel small, used, and laughed at. Behind her smile, he saw someone who did not care about the damage she caused. And for Michael, that was unforgivable. Number 3. Eminem. Among all the artists Michael Jackson disliked, Eminem held a very special place, for all the wrong reasons. It was not about rivalry, fame, or music sales. It was about disrespect, pure and painful. In 2004, Eminem released the song Just Lose It. The video was filled with jokes, but one part hit Michael like a knife to the heart. Eminem dressed like him, mocked his appearance, and made fun of the child abuse allegations Michael had faced for years. It was not just comedy. It was humiliation. For someone who had been through so much pain, being laughed at in front of millions was more than cruel. Michael did not respond with a diss track. That was not his style. But inside, he was deeply hurt. He publicly said the video was inappropriate and disrespectful. He reminded the world that he had never done anything to Eminem, and that the attack felt personal and unnecessary. Many fans and even celebrities came to Michael's defense, but the damage had been done. What made it worse was that Eminem never apologized. He said it was just a joke, but for Michael it was a clear sign of how far the world had fallen, where pain was funny and cruelty was called entertainment. Years later, Michael took quiet revenge. He bought a stake in the company that owned the rights to Eminem's music. Now every time Eminem's songs made money, part of it went to Michael. It was a silent victory, but it never erased the sting. Michael Jackson hated Eminem not because he was a better rapper, but because he used Michael's darkest struggles for laughs. For someone who had fought so hard to survive, being turned into a punchline was something he could never forgive. Number 4. Elvis Presley. Michael Jackson never met Elvis Presley in person, but his presence was everywhere in music, in fame, and in Michael's own home. Elvis was the original king of rock and roll, and when Michael became the king of pop, comparisons began immediately. The media, critics, and fans constantly measured Michael's success against Elvis's legacy, and that comparison began to feel like a shadow that followed Michael throughout his life. At first, Michael respected Elvis. He admired his impact on music and understood what it meant to carry such a title, but admiration slowly turned into quiet frustration. Michael worked harder than anyone. He broke records, sold out stadiums, and became a global icon. Still, people often said, "He's great, but he's not Elvis." That burned. Then came the marriage. In 1994, Michael married Lisa Marie Presley, Elvis's only daughter. Some said it was a publicity stunt. Others claimed it was love. Whatever the truth, Michael was now directly tied to the Presley name, and that only intensified the comparisons. He later shared that Lisa Marie constantly brought up her father during arguments, saying things like, "You will never be what he was." That deeply hurt Michael. He felt like he was being judged, not for who he was, but for who he was not. He never openly said he hated Elvis, but inside, he grew to resent the name, the legacy, and the way the world used it to downplay his own greatness. Every time someone called Elvis the true king, it chipped away at Michael's pride. Michael Jackson hated the pressure of living in someone else's shadow, and though Elvis was long gone, his ghost was everywhere, in headlines, in conversations, and even in Michael's own home. For Michael, Elvis Presley was not just a legend, he was a burden. Number 5. Tommy Mottola. Tommy Mottola was not a singer, but when it comes to people Michael Jackson truly hated, his name tops the list. At the time, Tommy was the powerful head of Sony Music, the label that released Michael's albums. What began as a business relationship quickly turned into a battle of control, power, and betrayal. In 2001, Michael released his album Invincible. It had huge expectations, but shortly after its release, promotion suddenly stopped. Michael was confused and angry. He believed Tommy Mottola deliberately sabotaged the album. He felt Sony did not want him to succeed anymore. According to Michael, Tommy saw him as a threat, a legendary artist with too much power and too much control over his music. Michael's response was shocking and bold. In a public rally, standing in front of fans and cameras, he called Tommy Mottola a racist and the devil. He accused him of manipulating black artists and controlling their careers like puppets. Michael said that Tommy tried to destroy his legacy because he refused to bow down to the industry's game. No one had ever seen Michael this angry. His words were sharp, his voice filled with emotion. He claimed the industry was evil and that Tommy was at the center of it. Many people in the industry were stunned. Some supported Michael, others stayed silent. But one thing was clear. The love was gone. Michael no longer trusted the people behind the curtain, and Tommy Mottola became the face of everything Michael hated about the music business. This was not about jealousy or fame. It was about betrayal, corruption, and the loss of artistic freedom. Michael Jackson hated Tommy Mottola not for who he was, but for what he represented. The dark side of an industry that once claimed to love him. Number 6. LaToya Jackson. Sometimes, the deepest wounds come from family. For Michael Jackson, one of the most painful betrayals came not from a stranger or rival, but from his own sister, LaToya Jackson. They shared the same blood, the same home, and the same roots. But in the 1990s, something changed, and LaToya did something Michael would never forget. During the height of Michael's child abuse allegations, LaToya shocked the world by holding a press conference where she publicly stated that she believed the accusations might be true. She said things like, "Michael needs help," and hinted that their family had secrets. Whether she was pressured by her then-husband and manager Jack Gordon or acting on her own, her words felt like knives to Michael's heart. He had always been protective of his family, especially his siblings. But now, one of them had turned against him. Not privately, but in front of cameras and reporters. For Michael, it was not just betrayal, it was humiliation. He immediately cut ties with her. For many years, they did not speak. He felt she had sold him out for money and attention. While he faced the darkest period of his life, LaToya added fuel to the fire. And for a man who already struggled with trust, this left a deep scar. Later, LaToya apologized and claimed she had been manipulated and abused by her husband. Michael forgave her quietly, but the damage had already been done. Their relationship never fully returned to what it once was. Michael Jackson hated betrayal more than anything, and when it came from someone who once called him the best brother in the world, it hurt the most. LaToya's actions turned her from family into a stranger, in Michael's eyes, maybe even an enemy. Number 7. Paul McCartney. Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney started out as friends, not just casual industry buddies, but real collaborators. They made hits together like Say, Say, Say and The Girl Is Mine. They laughed, shared creative energy, and talked openly about the music business. Michael looked up to Paul as a legend, while Paul admired Michael's genius. But behind that friendship was a ticking time bomb, and it exploded over something very dear to Paul's heart: the Beatles' catalog. During one of their many conversations, Paul told Michael that owning music publishing rights was where the real money was. He shared how frustrated he felt about not owning the Beatles' song rights. Michael listened carefully. Then in 1985, when the Beatles' catalog went up for sale, Michael bought it for $47.5 million, outbidding Paul himself. To the world, it looked like a smart business move, but to Paul, it felt like a betrayal. He believed Michael should have at least offered to buy it with him, or not at all. Paul felt that his friend had taken something personal, something sacred. Michael, on the other hand, saw it as business. He believed Paul would understand, since he was the one who had taught him the value of music rights in the first place. But Paul did not understand. After that, the two barely spoke. What was once a warm friendship turned into silence. Michael felt hurt that Paul acted like a victim, while Paul felt cheated. There were no harsh words in public, but the distance between them said it all. Michael Jackson hated being seen as the bad guy, especially by someone he once called a friend. He did not just lose a business deal, he lost a bond. And that quiet fallout left a bitter taste that never went away. Michael Jackson was more than just moonwalks and music. He was a complex, emotional, and deeply sensitive soul who carried the weight of fame, trauma, and betrayal all his life. The 7 people he hated were not just random names. Each of them represented a wound, a moment where he felt disrespected, mocked, or abandoned. His hatred was not born out of ego, but out of pain. Whether it was Prince's silent rivalry, Eminem's cruel jokes, or LaToya's public betrayal, every situation left a mark on his heart. And though he was loved by billions, Michael often felt alone, misunderstood, and surrounded by masks. But behind that glittering glove was a man who never stopped giving. One of Michael's most beautiful habits was his generosity. He donated millions to children's hospitals, supported over 30 charities, and always stood up for the weak. Despite all the hate he received, he chose love until the end. Now it's your turn. Which of these 7 people do you think was most unfair to Michael? Is there anyone on this list you personally do not like? Let us know in the comments. The king may be gone, but his truth still speaks.